Hi everyone. So as you can see, I am back working on another bag pattern, and it is again a bag pattern from Bagstock Designs because I just can't get away from how beautiful their handbag patterns are and so clear and concise on how to work through the pattern. So here is the pattern that I'm doing today. It's the Ilaria handbag. And it's a nice size handbag with some beautiful accents and different handle options. It is labeled as an advanced beginner, and I would agree with that assessment, I think, on this case, because it is a little bit hard working through the details coming through the top being curved, and the gusset is a little tough on the curved areas, but it is a very fun pattern. So as you can see, I used cork on this bag, and I used a marine vinyl as the accent. And then as you can see, there is a recessed zipper pocket, which was a little difficult to install. I was using the bag, so there are some stuff in it. I thought I took everything out earlier when I had used it. But so there's the recessed zipper pocket, and then there are two slip pockets on the inside and a zipper pocket as well. It is a great bag pattern to work through, but one thing I will say is there is a lot of hardware that you'll need aside from just zippers, because the handbag handles do require the rectangular rings, so you'll need 4 of those. And then on this bag, I use D-rings on the side. So there's 2 D-rings on the side, and then your swivel clasps and a slider, and then I chose to use the rivets as mentioned in the pattern. I didn't put any purse feet on the bottom or anything, but if you chose to go that way, then you will still have those. And let me show you. I didn't use a zipper end on this bag because I didn't have one that matched the zipper coil. So instead of going with the pattern, I just put a zipper end on it. But since I had cork, it was fine because I wouldn't have to worry about the edges fraying. So it worked out in that instance. But on the bag I'm going to demo the pattern walkthrough on, I am going to use a zipper end. So like I said, you could really end up with needing to purchase a lot of hardware for this bag. So let me show you what I'm using this time. And I am going to be using rainbow hardware, so that is always fun and exciting. So what I'm doing this time is I'm going to do a smaller handbag strap because I do prefer that. So I'm using the smaller 3/4 inch. But on the sides, I'm going to use a bigger 1 inch and going to use bigger claw hooks and everything, swivel hooks, because I do like a wider strap for the crossbody bag. And I am going to see, I think I'm going to use purse feet on this bag as well. So let me show you what I am using this time around. Instead of the green marine vinyl, I am going to be using this blue, which is beautiful and I think will look really nice with the rainbow. I am going to use some rainbow zippers. And then I'm using cork again. And I'm using Annie's Soft and Stable as my foam. But look at this cork, you guys. How beautiful is that? So I got my bag hardware and this cork from my handmadespace.com, and it is gorgeous. I cannot wait to see how this bag turns out. So for the lining again, I am going to use the waterproof canvas. This is a lovely waterproof canvas to work with, and I'll put the link to where I purchased that. It's Ottertex, but I can't remember the name of the website I get it from, but it is lovely to work with as well. So let's get started putting this bag together because I have everything cut. Okay, so here are the components that we will need for the first steps of the Ilaria handbag. So you're going to need your 2 exterior panels, your 2 foam, You're going to need the handbag handle connectors, all 4 of those, and the 2 stripes that are an accent. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to mark down the center of our stripes, and then I'm going to use some double-sided tape to put down the middle and fold our ends in to meet, because that's going to give us a nice clean edge when we apply the stripe to the handbag. And so we're going to do that to both of those. And then we're essentially going to do the same with these connectors. So we're going to mark down the middle, use some double-sided tape, bring the ends in, and then we're going to put those through after they're basted in place so that they're the connectors for our rectangle rings. And those rectangle rings we're going to baste in place where the measurements are indicated, stitch around them a little box on both, and then we'll lay the stripe over those, and all the measurements are in the instruction manual. We'll stitch 1/8 of an inch around the stripe as well. And then if you would like, you can apply your rivets then. And after we get both of these panels prepped, have the rectangular rings and the stripes in place and our rivets if we choose, we are going to stitch our foam around, just basting it in place to our panel. So I know that is a lot of steps, but it will be really easy to follow, I promise you, and that'll have essentially the front and back of our panels already finished. So what we are working on is getting the connectors in place here, the rivets, and the stripe in place. All right, so let's get going on that. Okay, so the front and back exterior panels are now finished. You can see the stripes are on and the handbag connectors. So we're going to set those aside for now, and we are going to work on the interior zipper pocket. So per the instructions, you will take your zipper panel facing and mark it as directed, and you're going to mark it on the wrong side of the fabric, and then you're going to place it right side down on the right side of your interior lining panel, and you'll follow the instructions on how low to place it on the panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew around the exterior rectangle, and then we're going to cut along the middle line and the triangles and flip the panel right side out. And we're also going to prep our interior zipper pocket, so you'll need your zipper for that. And I put it on the right side of the fabric, facing up with the zipper pull to the left. Okay, so we're just gonna sew across the zipper. I do about 1/4 of an inch seam, and then we will do the same thing on the other side of the zipper pocket lining. So we'll sew it across this side once we finished, and then we will use that window we created there and sew a box around our zipper. So these are pretty standard instructions for doing a interior zipper pocket lining. If you do have a favorite way, just use that, those instructions that you prefer, but I find that this way is a nice way to do the interior zipper pockets, and it is what is included in the instructions. Okay, so here is the interior zipper pocket finished, and as you can see, I did sew the sides together, but I left the bottom open, and since I'm using a waterproof canvas that I can't press, I use some double-sided tape to flip the ends up. Now this is how we're going to flip the bag later on after we assemble the entire bag. So since this side of the bottom of the interior is finished, we're going to move on to the slip pocket on the inside. So we're going to need one of the lining bottoms, and we're going to need 2 of the slip pockets. We're going to sew these right sides together across the top, and then we will flip them wrong sides together and do a top stitch along the top just to finish it off nicely. And as you can see, I marked the center point because we are going to attach this to the lining bottom by sewing along the edge, and we're going to split this pocket in half by sewing up the middle. I'm going to go over a little bit, sew back down the other side, and then finish basting it in place to this pocket. So we're going to work on that now. Okay, so the slip pockets are finished, and you can see that you can use either side. Another fun thing you could do is, instead of just dividing it in half in the middle, you could make 3 pockets. You could make like a pin pocket on the side here to slip something smaller in. So there's a lot of ways you could do that besides just dividing them in half. So next we're going to work on the main zipper. And this is a recessed zipper. So as you can see, per the measurements, I have the side marked where the curved beginning of the zipper is going to start. And then I also have the ends folded over as indicated in the pattern. So I have that done on all of my pieces here. I chose to use 2 linings and 2 main fabrics. I believe the instructions just call for lining. I just wanted to have this accent fabric show up again since it's so beautiful. So I have them all marked where the zipper is going to start, and I have them all folded over as indicated. So what we're going to do to start is sew across the right side of the panel, and the zipper is right side up with the pull to close to the left. And so I'm just going to sew across here, and then I will be placing the cork right side down on top of here, line it up, and we're going to sew up the side and down across, flip it open, and then do a base stitch around the side. So you'll see all that, and then we're going to end up doing the same thing with the other 2 pieces. Okay, so the recessed zipper is all finished. Isn't that beautiful with all that rainbow? So I'm going to apply the zipper end to the end of the zipper, and I'm just going to fold over the back to slide into the zipper end. I'm going to put a little bit of glue in here and just to secure it in place. We do have the little screw, but just a little more reinforcement's always nice. So I'm going to fold that over and slide the zipper end in there. And then I'm just going to put the screw in. And these are tiny screws, so you're going to want to go kind of slow and patient, and don't try to force it in, because you'll strip these really easily if you try to manhandle it in. There you go. So we're going to set this aside, let the glue dry and everything, and we're going to work on the gussets. So put the screwdriver away. So I'm going to go ahead and sew both gussets at the same time. I have them prepped. So my exterior and the interior. So I'm going to sew across the marked seam allowance line. So note in the pattern that they are different for each one. So I'm going to sew across there and just finger press these open and sew about 1/8 of an inch along either side of the seam. And I'm going to do that on both. I'm going to do that on the exterior and the interior. Now I do have a bottom stabilizer. This is Decoville Heavy, and you can see I've marked it to apply the purse feet on. So I'm going to center this in the middle of the gusset, the exterior gusset, after I sew it together, and I'm going to put the purse feet on in the marked areas. And then just like the exterior panel, I am going to put the foam anti-soft and stable on the exterior gusset and just base sew along the edge. So that's what we're going to be working on, is these interior and exterior gussets. So we're just doing a lot of the detail work right now. We're coming through this bag pretty fast. Okay, so now that we have our gussets finished, we're going to finish prepping the exterior gusset because it's going to need some side connectors on them. So remember, we cut 2 exterior side connectors, and we're going to prep them similar to the way we did the handbag connectors on the other side of the bag. So let me measure and see. It's supposed to be 2 inches. Okay, so we're gonna cut or mark at the 2-inch line. Probably shouldn't have used white. Or mark in half, which is the 1 inch. Good grief, sometimes I wonder where my brain is. Okay, so we're gonna put some double-sided tape down the center. If you're using cotton, you could always just press these with the outer rough edges into the center. But for me, especially since I'm using cork right here, I'm gonna use the double-sided tape. So I've said before, I need to get some scissors that don't mind these sticky fabrics. So raw edges into the center. And then we're, this time we are going to sew down the edges first, 1/8 of an inch seam. After we do that, we are going to put these connectors in place, and we'll sew as close as we can to the hook. And then we are gonna sew these in place on the gusset, and I have it marked where the cork is going to meet. Isn't that going to look really pretty on the side there? That is going to be really nice. So like I said, we're going to sew down the edges and then get the, for me it's a rectangular ring. You may be using a D-ring in place, and then we're going to attach it to the gusset here. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these prepped and get to sewing. All right, now that we have the gusset finished and the connectors and my rectangular rings in place, we're going to work on putting the exterior of the bag together. As you can see, I did apply some rivets to my connectors, and I used the same method I did on the ones on the bag exterior. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to mark the center of the bottom of both of your exteriors, and then you're going to want to have the center marked on your gusset as well. And so we're just going to bring these marked lines together and apply whatever clip you like using. So I just start at the middle and work around. And I also I like to add some slits into the curved edges of the bag bottom just to help sew them a little bit easier. So you don't want to clip inside of your seam allowance, just little slits. So just be careful doing that. But it'll just help your bag lay a little bit flatter for you, help not get so many, you know, like gathered seams there. So just do some little slits. And we're going to sew from the gusset side and just follow the seam allowance given in the pattern instructions. So I snipped along there, and I'll add some more if I need to when I'm curving along the edges, putting the clips in. If it seems like I need to add more, then I'll do that. But I put a ton of clips because you really want this all to be held in place. So after I do this side of the bag, I just go ahead and do the other side following the same method. Okay, so now that the exterior of the bag is finished, doesn't that look amazing? It's such a pretty shape. So we're going to set that aside and get the lining finished. So what we're going to do first is attach our recessed zipper to one of the lining pieces, and I'm going to do the zipper first because I want to make sure the zipper pull for the recessed zipper and for the pocket are on the same side. So we're just going to center it, put some clips, sew across, and then after we sew that in place, we're going to put the lining top right sides together and sew across again, then flip up and do a top stitch across to make it look nice and finished. So we're going to do that to both sides. So once we finish this side, we're going to bring out our pockets, line it up again, centered, sew across, and then put the other top right sides together, sew across, and do a top stitch. So once we have both of these sides finished, we will put our gusset on, and we're going to follow the same steps that we did before, meeting the centers and clipping up and lining up our outsides. If we need to, we'll do some little slits along the corners, but make sure that you read the seam allowances for the lining and follow those, okay? Okay, so I'm very sorry that I didn't catch all of the sewing of the lining, but it has, the pattern has great instructions on getting that done. So here is the lining finished, and what we're going to do, you see, is unzip this, and we're going to slip the exterior inside, lining up everything. And it obviously may not be an easy fit. You'll just have to move it around a lot and get it in. I like to make sure all of my hardware is facing down just so it stays out of the out of my presser foot. And you'll want to make sure that lining zipper is open because that's where you're going to flip the bag later. So what you're going to do is, well, what I like to do is line up the gussets and clip there. And like I said, it's not always easy, but that's the kind of the easiest way to do it. So I put a lot of clips in, and I try to fold the seams on the gussets in the opposite directions. I use these clips because they're a little easier to clip on. So I try to fold the seams at the gusset in opposite directions as much as I can. But once you get these gusset seams pinned, the rest kind of lines up a little bit easier sometimes. So just go through and pin all that, and then what we're going to do is sew along the edge at your seam allowance. I find it easier to sew along the inside, but however is easier on your machine, do that. Mine's a little bit easier on the inside because I don't have like a plate that I can take off and sew around the throat on my machine. So I'm going to keep pinning all this, and like I said, we're going to sew around the edge here and then flip the bag right side out, and we'll top stitch along the edge to finish it off. Then after this, all we have is the handles to work on. So I'm gonna keep pinning across here on both sides, but let me show you what we're gonna do on the handles. So here is one of the shorter handbag handles, and so I marked down the middle and put some double-sided tape on. So we're just gonna do like we did with the connectors and fold the raw edges to the inside where the tape is. If you're using cotton, you could just press instead of using the double-sided tape. So we're gonna fold that in, and we're gonna do this on both of the short handles, handbag handles, and on the crossbody strap. So it's the same principle. So fold these in, and then we're going to fold that in half. So we're going to fold in half and stitch a top stitch 1/8 of an inch along each side. So when you fold it in half, it's easiest to clip it. I've done that with the other short ones. So just clip them together and then sew 1/8 of an inch along each side, and it'll look like this. This is the crossbody strap. So once you do that, your crossbody strap, we're going to put the hardware on. So what you're going to do is put the strap through one side of the hardware, up and out the other, and it's not wanting to go through. So you just take a little bit through, and then you'll stitch. I like to stitch right at the edge and then closer up, as close as I can get to the top. So 2, and then once you do that, you're going to want to leave that raw edge facing up, and I'm just going to show you by putting a clip. So pretend we sewed there. So I leave it facing up, and then you're going to put on one of your swivel hooks. So put that through, and this we're going to leave loose. So we're not going to sew that one in place. So there you see. And then you're going to put your strap through one side and the other. It's going to be tight since I haven't got any of that sewed in place yet. So we have that through, and then you're going to put your other end of the swivel hook, or your strap, other end of your strap through, and sew it in place. So again, near the end and up near the top. And I'll probably put some rivets in mine, just since I have rivets on the bag and everywhere else, just to bring it all together. So that will be our crossbody strap. So what we're going to work on is sewing around the bag to finish that off, flip it and top stitch, and then we'll finish up our other straps and get our hardware actually sewn in place. But those are the steps to get it there.